Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard. I'm Lauren Feldman, and I'm here today with John Arensmeyer, who is founder and CEO of Small Business Majority, an advocacy group for businesses and entrepreneurs. Welcome back, John.
Good to be here, Lauren.
Great to have you as always. So John, as you know, I talk to business owners all the time. Some of them are quite concerned about what's happening in Washington, what the Trump administration is doing, and they feel like it's creating chaos and uncertainty that's having an impact on their businesses. I also talk to business owners who feel as though Trump is kicking ass and cleaning things up, and they're cheering him on and quite confident about where things are going. You're right there in Washington where everything is happening. What do you think about what's going on?
Well, Lauren, first of all, everything's happening out there, and the business owners we talk to are, living through this. Look, I don't want to get overly political here, but this is, in short, a disaster. And not only is the administration going after valuable programs that either benefit directly or indirectly small businesses, but they are creating chaos, as you said, chaos and uncertainty out there. And that is not good for business. That is not a good business environment. We just saw the Atlanta Fed published numbers showing that their projection of the GDP for the first quarter dropped from 2.3% positive to negative 1.5%. So this is not a good environment for small businesses.
A disaster. Are you referring primarily to the cuts in the programs or just the uncertainty that all of this chaos is creating? What's your bigger concern there?
Both. It is programs. The SBA laid off 20% of their They fired 20% of their workforce. The other programs have been cut that indirectly and directly benefit small business. We've seen farmers, because of the USAID cuts, hurting. And so
that's because the USAID was buying crops from farmers to supply around the world, and those crops are no longer being bought.
Correct. And the economy is interconnected. So, and the tariffs are, we're hearing from small business owners that the tariffs are a disaster. Even before he actually took action on the tariffs, polling we did show that 53% of businesses felt that the increased tariffs were going to hurt their business, and 77% said it was going to hurt the economy. We're back in the field with some more polling now. I'm sure those numbers are going to be higher. So it's all a piece. Tom Friedman had a piece that said that the economy is interconnected. We have a business owner who domestically manufactures keyboards and computer mouses, waterproof, and he has to import a lot of his materials, but then he exports. So he's going to get hit both ways. He's got to pay increased tariffs on the stuff that's coming in, but then when he exports, he is going to have to, there's no doubt going to be a trade war, and he's going to have to pay that. And he's actually thinking, can you believe this, moving his production offshore simply because of that.
The whole point of the tariff supposedly is to increase domestic production. You're saying he would actually go somewhere else to build?
He is on a business trip as we speak, exploring options in other countries.
Wow. You've had an interesting experience of late. You had the opportunity to take business owners to Capitol Hill and talk to both Democrats and Republicans and get their sense of what's happening. How did that go?
It was earlier this week, and it was a really good experience. We had over 30 business owners. We had 62 meetings with staff and members, and it was really very enlightening to hear directly from the business owners who are out there across America dealing with this and hearing them tell their stories. First of all, they echo what I said. They are very concerned about the chaos. They're very concerned about the uncertainty. And some of them are directly impacted. We have one business owner who's a government contractor who lost 70% of her business overnight. This is somebody who spent 20 years building this incredible business and just gone. Now, that's an extreme case, but all the business owners say they're being impacted by this. And so having them be able to tell their stories about what's going on. And we also talked about we also talked about other issues. They talked about how they're being impacted by the tariffs, being impacted by fears of mass deportations, actual mass deportations and fears of mass deportation. And of course, we talked about the upcoming tax debate. And I can get into a little more detail on that. So we covered the gamut of issues, and it was just really interesting to hear their voices. And the reaction was, across both Democrats and Republicans, really listened, really understood. Said they understood what they were saying. I think right now, certainly the Republicans are not prepared to sort of break ranks with the White House. But I could tell that they were listening and taking it all in.
By reading their faces or actual comments?
Both. I mean, the questions they asked, and they generally had follow-up questions and tell me more, and I'm interested to hear. I hear you. I mean, were they gaslighting us? I don't know. I think that they were interested to hear what small businesses are feeling out there. They're hearing from a lot of constituents, and the opportunity to have small businesses collectively speak to them and tell their stories, I think, was important. And the Democrats, too. The Democrats wanted to hear their stories as well. They need to kind of understand and be able to articulate in anything they're doing, be able to articulate what's being felt by small business owners as well.
The House Republicans did move forward with the start of a budget bill process, which makes the discussion of what's going to happen to the Trump taxes from 2017 suddenly quite relevant. You just referred to the taxes. Tell me what your thinking is there.
Well, it was a framework, as we know, so-called reconciliation framework, and so they didn't have to make the tough calls on any individual program. They didn't actually have to decide what the tax law was going to look like. So again, given where the Republican majority is now and trying to stay consistent with the White House, wasn't entirely surprised that they passed it. I think when it comes down to brass tacks, even in the House, which can do this with 50, they can do it in the Senate with 50% as well. But I think that there is going to be a lot tougher negotiations when we get down to brass tacks, and they have to decide: you're going to cut Medicaid? Are we really going to extend tax cuts that are going to be very expensive and, quite frankly, benefit the wealthiest Americans? So we'll see. We'll see, but it's right now they're kind of in lockstep.
Your organization has a slightly unusual position, I think, on the taxes. One of the key points that people are waiting to see what happens with is the 20% pass-through deduction that small businesses get. A lot of small business organizations are really focusing on making sure that is one of the taxes that is maintained. You're suggesting something different.
Well, the reality is that the 199A pass-through tax provision benefits those who are making, large sums of money as pass-through entities. 73% of the financial benefit goes to 4% of the largest pass-through entities. So our point is, if you want to have, and we agree, if you want to have a tax provision that is there to benefit small business, you need to write it in such a way that it actually benefits the majority of small businesses, and those are the ones who are smaller. And not only will it benefit them with greater dollars, they're going to feel that benefit as a percentage of their financials much more than a bigger business. So if the goal is to provide support to small business, you want to do it in a way that's going to have the biggest impact on the largest number of businesses. And that's not the way the law is now. We're proposing, and this is just a starting point, a $25,000 automatic deduction, standard deduction, if you will, the first $25,000 of income. And obviously, if you have a small net profit, that's going to be a huge benefit for you. And anyone, if you do the math, any business with a net profit under $125,000 is going to benefit, and that is the vast majority of businesses.
That figure you gave of 73% of the benefit of the current pass-through tax deduction going to the top 4%, I wasn't aware of those numbers. And I bet most, even business owners, are not. I think if that word got out, I think it would have an impact on this debate.
If you look at the figures, you look at the statistics, it's, you can see that they publish, the Tax Policy Center publishes numbers, shows the dollar percentage benefit by tax category. You take the top two tax brackets, it's actually, to be fair, 4.5% of businesses, and you add the numbers up, it's 73% of the total. It's just straight math.
Interesting. I don't think many people realize that. You mentioned healthcare, and I think specifically Medicaid. That's not typically thought of as a small business issue, but it is in reality, correct?
Yeah, over 7 million small business employees are on Medicaid. 7 million. And we looked at numbers of Medicaid coverage after the Medicaid was expanded. And not only is it employees, but 1.3 million more owners and self-employed people were on Medicaid as a result of that. So there is an absolute impact of Medicaid on small businesses, both owners and employees.
Did you have any sense of what would happen if that went away?
Would just increase tremendous pressure on the whole small business ecosystem. Similarly, the premium tax credits and the ACA have benefited small businesses, and that's going to be a disaster if they go away. Over half of the participants in the ACA marketplaces are small business owners, employees, and self-employed. So all of these provisions impact small business owners and employees and self-employed tremendously.
You mentioned early on in talking about programs getting cut, I think you said 20% of employees at the SBA have been fired. There's always fat in any government program. There are always savings to be had. It's so hard to know. The SBA is a big agency. Do you have any sense of what losing 20% of their employees means?
Well, first of all, there's no data or report out there that somehow they have a bloated workforce that is, creating problems for the programs that they provide. So, I don't know where they're getting the data from. Any business owner will tell you the way to, first of all, if there is a cost issue, and we don't know that, the worst thing you can do is just blanket hatchet a job with a meat cleaver. It makes no sense just to announce one day, all provisional employees are going to go. That's not a sensible way to look at it. If there were a concern of some kind of bloat or some kind of inefficiency, well, spend the time to take a look at it and analyze it. We certainly never heard that in all the years we've worked with the SBA under both Democratic and Republican administrations. So I don't understand, no business owner would take that approach to their business. And it just seems to be for show and with no connection to reality.
Do you, especially from your talks on the Hill, did you get a sense of what the ultimate goal is here? Is there a movement afoot to just get rid of the SBA?
We certainly heard nothing that specific. But if you look at what they're doing across the entire executive branch, anything's possible. So I don't know what to say. Small business is a constituency that is the most respected constituency in the entire country, even higher than the military. And it's it would seem insane to take a further meat cleaver to an agency that's benefiting a constituency like that. But I have to say, looking at what's going on, we have to be prepared for any possibility. So we've established a rapid response coalition initially focused on the potential cuts and making sure we're ready with stories of small business owners and all the organizations, business support organizations, mission-driven lenders like CDFIs that can speak to the benefits on the ground for small businesses, and we're putting together a coalition to be ready to deal with anything like that might happen. Similarly, there's $5 billion in state small business credit initiative funding that's managed by the Treasury that's been fully obligated to the states, and that is sitting in an account because you can't transfer that money until 80% of the previous money has been spent. Who knows? It's sitting in an account in Washington. Anything's possible. So we need to be prepared to push back with the voices of small business, the voices of the organizations on the ground to support those small businesses, organizations, including local chambers, organizations that actually have ties to members of Congress, that are friendly with members of Congress, Republican and Democrat. So that's what we're doing, because we just don't know. At this point, we feel it's our job to be ready, because we see what's happening and we don't know what's going to happen.
You're obviously right when you talk about the esteem in which small business owners are held. Everybody knows they're the backbone of the economy, and politicians will tell you that ad nauseum, at least before an election. But it's interesting with the SBA because, again, talking to business owners, I talk to a lot of business owners who really don't have any idea what the SBA does and aren't sure whether it should really exist or not. Do you hear that?
I don't know why they aren't aware of it. It's probably because they haven't needed it. The SBA was set up in 1953 to provide guarantees on loans that perhaps would be more difficult to finance in the open market. If you're a business owner who has no problem getting credit in the open market, then you probably don't need the SBA. But the SBA has had, how many years is that? It's over 70 years of providing that backstop for loans that might not get approved without that guarantee. And that is a very important part of the market. And so it's hard enough to get capital, and the SBA plays a vital role in expanding that. The SBA also funds business support organizations out there, the small business SBD, development councils, the women's business centers that provide support to small businesses and advice. So, yeah, there may be some small business owners that don't feel they need it, but there are plenty of business owners who do.
So to kind of summarize and wrap up here, you see a disaster unfolding, and you said that you're preparing to have business owners ready and your organization ready to mount opposition and provide voice to the concerns. What triggers that? At what point, and what chance do you think that has of actually having an impact?
Well, we always are building support from small business owners, listening to them, bringing them to Washington and state capitals. We're active in many states. So we're already doing that. So it wasn't like we're starting from scratch to find out what business owners are thinking and how they might join with us to advocate for themselves.
Sure.
But yeah, I pretty soon into the administration, it became pretty clear that this was at a tsunami level that we hadn't anticipated. And so we decided we really needed to step that effort up and turn it into a rapid response coalition.
If somebody listening to this wants to get involved and add their voice to what you're doing, where should they go? Smallbusinessmajority.org is our website. And if they're looking for business resources, we have a business resource site called venturize.org. But if they're looking to join us in any work we're doing, advocacy work we're doing, they should go to smallbusinessmajority.org. What form might that take if they want to join in the advocacy?
Well, it all depends. I mean, we first of all love to hear from them. I mean, that's a large part of our outreach efforts with businesses or something to listen to them, address their needs. If they need resources, we help provide that to them. But if they're interested in sharing their input, fine. If they're interested in helping joining us to take action, that's fine too. That involves letters, talking to the media. Petitions, maybe. It involves, speaking, getting in touch with their state and federal legislators. So we can help them and get them involved in any way they want to be involved. And so, there's no set way. We have a sort of a range of ways that business owners work with us. We have national and state business councils. We've got regular groups that get together. And so we're, and now we've got this sort of consolidating this into this rapid response coalition, which, by the way, we're going to use that model to get ready to respond to other issues as well. But
did I miss anything, John? Anything you'd like to call to our attention?
No, I think we've covered everything. I don't think we talked about, or maybe we did, about the immigration and mass deportations, but
not this time. We didn't.
Really quickly. I mean, that is a tremendous concern to businesses because there are a lot of. First of all, the reality is that it's a mix of immigrants, some documented, some not. But a lot of the immigrants who are working legally are being impacted by this. Whole programs are being shut down. And the whole, many businesses, it's a huge part of their economy and their supply chains economy. And it's, again, just creating incredible chaos, disaster, and uncertainty. And as we all know, the worst thing for business is that level of uncertainty and chaos. It's very difficult. It's hard enough to run a business under normal circumstances. So this is just making it much worse, and disrupting a very valuable workforce is not making it any better.
John Arensmeyer is founder and CEO of Small Business Majority. Thanks for taking the time, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lauren.
I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more in the months ahead. Have a great week, everybody.